one a game of Dota as my Counter-Strike. Not the best of things to do, but I call that my zaman jahiliah, the dark days. What changed me, again, this links back to when there's a will, there's a way. What truly changed me was my grandfather. My grandfather served in the military since he was young till his retirement. He was serving in the Navy. He was a pegawai warrior, not a top officer, but just a pegawai warrior. But he got me involved in military. I mean, to some extent, I started to love the military because of him. And I realized, hey, this is my passion. And I was then only about 14 years old, failing classes or not getting A's as what my mom would want me to do. But then I found my passion. My passion then was in military. But I knew I didn't have much connections except for my grandfather. So I did was then you had the streaming internet, the jaring. For those of you who are on my age, you know, the very weird internet connection. So what I did then, I just got online, went on the defense forum online, and started to engage in this passion. And then from there on, I knew I wanted to read a lot more, but I had no money, so there was these 3 defense journals which are published every month or every week. In Malaysia, they only put Tempoh, Prajurit, and internationally is Asian Defense Journal. But it's quite expensive. Right? I remember I spend every day, then I only got RM2 every day. That magazine alone every week costs about 50 ringgit. If it costs to 50 ringgit, AEF costs about 20 to 30 ringgit. So I'm going to spend my money there. So I did that, and again, this is Zaman Jahiliah, so please keep in mind when I share something, bad things don't follow. I call it Zaman Jahiliah for a reason. There's a story which connects at the end, so just be patient. So, in my place is no big mall, there's one small place called Peling Mall. Over there, there's this very small bookstore, which I mastered the entry and exit of how not to get caught. So every week, I'll go there, saying I want to buy, newspapers, but in reality, I brought out not just newspapers, but the defense journal, Prajurit, and Tempoh with me as well. So yeah, that's not the best thing to do, but at that point I was so involved, I really wanted to learn, I really wanted. And there are 2 things in my life, there are 2 things that really changed my life. One is entering RMC. This is our free promotion campaign for RMC, but you guys are already above and beyond secondary school. But that really changed my life. I'll explain why later. And second is joining debating. But to enter RMC then, I knew a minimum I had to get 6 A's and 2 B's. I had to go to EQ test, IQ test, physical test, whatever kind of test, like 5 or 6 different tests, which I knew for some I'll definitely not be able to pass. I know my studies, I'll work remarkably hard, which I did, I got just my 6 A's and 2 B's. But I wore specs. And to enter RMC, you cannot wear specs. I don't even know why that rule exists, but it existed. I was asthmatic. And I inherited that from my mom, and the asthma was really bad. For those of you who know asthma, there are 3 stages. One is the purple color, chocolate color, and then there's blue color, and then there's the nebulizer. I'm the blue color and nebulizer, which is like the 2nd and 3rd stage. So obviously I cannot pass the physical test. But I knew that I really wanted to enter. I put my heart into it, my mind into it. So then I realized if I use the same conventional means, which is training like others, I will not pass. So I need to find unique ways of how to do it. And that's where, I really adopted the mana kemauan sebagai jalan. What I did was then, in order to enter RMC, a few different zones of selection: northern, central, southern zone. Southern zone, I think, was the part zone. So about 200 of us went, only about 30 of us will be selected. So when the eyesight test, when our eyesight was tested, I knew obviously I cannot see, and if I wore specs, they'll fail me. So what I did was that I realized, okay, how do I hack this issue? How do I circumvent this test and pass it with good grades? So then we didn't have iPhones. My brother then was already working part-time, so he had this Nokia Engage. You know, Engage is big, really big phone which looks like a, how to put it, if you throw to a dog, the dog will die. Yeah, so the Nokia Engage is really big, but the Nokia Engage has a small camera. Low quality, but it has a camera. So what I did was, I knew that the test would be early in the morning, about 8 AM. So I was the first one there, 7:30. Eyesight test is about the same, you know, they'll put the A to Z from big to small in front of you. There are 2 boards. I took out my phone, took photos of the boards, in and out, and I went to the back of the line while everyone was doing the test, and there are 200 people, so it took a while. I memorized each and every single one of it from top to bottom. So when my turn came, even though it was blurry, but I knew this is third to the right, I knew what it was, right? But I knew, okay, if that's what it takes, I'll get it done, and I got it done, and I passed. Obviously, when I got into RMC and they saw me with spectacles, too late, you can't remove me now, I'm already here. So yeah, there was one. Physical test, right? I was asthmatic, then you had to complete, I think, 2.1 or 2.4 kilometers below 15 or 20 minutes. And not that tough now, but then when you're asthmatic, very tough. So I realized, how do I do it? And if they find me with my nebulizer, I'll immediately be disqualified. So obviously in context, before that, for the past 6 months, I've been training my lungs out. But even then, when I train my lungs out, in the end, I'll just make it just in time. And I need my nebulizer, because if I don't have my nebulizer, I'll faint. And my worry, if I faint, worse things will happen. So I realized, okay, there's a way to hack this. So first, obviously, is the preparation 6 months before. But even then, it's just in time. How do I bring my nebulizer? No one can see my nebulizer. That's why I collaborated. I knew of a friend who also went to audition with me. I said, bro, I trust you with my life. And this, when I say my life, literally with my life, I know you will finish way ahead of me. Just please wait for me in the toilet. And in the toilet, please bring my nebulizer. Because I'll be the last one to enter. And when I enter, immediately pass me my nebulizer. If I faint, you slap my face as hard as possible so that I wake up and get my nebulizer. If not, my life is in your hands and you will be the one to be blamed. Ozzy was laughing then, he didn't know it was real. And obviously, we went through and I made it just in time. Really just in time, ran to the toilet, was about to faint. The nebulizer was there and I survived. Why I'm sharing this, obviously the IQ, EQ, military test, I passed very well. But these two are the toughest. And if I use typical conventional methods, evidently I will not pass. But at that point in time, I already have this train of thought. When there's a will, there's a way, and as long as I want it to be done, I'll do whatever it takes to get it done. And to me, that made me who I am today. And when I entered RMC, it introduced me to the world of debating. One thing led to another, and then it became history. So I'm going to fast forward my debating career, which then moved into politics. Why do I join politics? Everyone in your own respective lives or career paths will have that burning desire to pursue something which they truly love. At times, at the beginning, we may not be in that path, we may be doing something else, but it will always be lingering at the back of our mind to do that. For me, politics was never my #1 choice. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a singer even though I cannot sing. I wanted to be an astronaut even though I was very fearful of many things, of dying in a plane, dying in a rocket. I wanted to be a soldier because of my grandfather. I wanted to be a teacher because of my mom. I wanted to be a lecturer because of my sister. And then, even when it comes to politics, I never wanted to be in the front line. I've always wanted to be a researcher or a public policy expert because I always love to keep my privacy and enjoy the flexibilities of life while impacting on policy change. So that's why before I joined politics, full-time politics, I was a part-time lecturer in IIUM. I was a researcher for a Johor think tank. I was an officer to then the former Minister of Law. And I was doing so many part-time jobs while studying. But there was never that true calling to enter frontline politics because I still wanted the comfort of my privacy. But like everyone, you'll have that moment of awakening. Whether you are a doctor, engineer, architect, whether you lead an NGO or you yourself are an NGI, you will find that. And for me, my calling came about when I knew that there was something wrong happening in front of me, despite me being in a very comfortable position there. I was working 6 different part-time jobs, very good income with all 6 of it. But I knew that this was something in which if I just keep it in myself, I will not be able to wake up happy. I will feel a great sense of guilt. And that was a sense of moral calling which really pushed me forward. I'm not going to go too much to politics. That was the 1MDB days, you can guess then. But I knew at the same time, if I were to speak up, immediately I'll lose almost all sources of income, and I knew the consequences which I'll face. But this is where you'll have that journey or path which you have to take. There'll be a few paths ahead of you. Which one do you take? I knew then, similar to how I was before, when there's a will, there's a way, finding that passion, that willpower, which gets me excited as I wake up every morning, I knew this was the calling for me. I wanted to do it, my heart was in the right place, and I embarked on that journey. And it started really petty at first, literally through a Facebook post. But because it was a Facebook post, the media picked it up. Because of my debate credentials, then I broke the world record and a few Asian record. So the media labeled it that way, or world's best speaker says this, which obviously got me into hot soup. And in less than 1 week, I lost almost all my jobs. I could no longer lecture in IIUM, I could no longer become the debate trainer for IIUM, I could no longer enter any schools to teach. Then I was teaching in TKC and KTJ. I could no longer be an officer and a researcher. It went out the window immediately. But I was quite lucky then because I could still teach abroad, so there was still a good source of income thanks to the government of Qatar, who pays very well when you convert to Malaysian ringgit because they pay in US dollars. So I still had a different source of income, but it was abroad. But then, despite all of this, instead of weakening me, it reminded me as to why I picked this path. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anyone around me, it could happen to any other Malaysian. And I knew that this is not the country which I want to see take place, what more be a complicit through my omission or through silence. And that's why I kept on marching ahead. And obviously throughout the past, there are many confrontations, many challenges, many risks, many problems. But I always say, when you think of those risks and problems, I always remind myself why I picked that journey. I knew from the very beginning it won't be easy. I knew that there will be many failures throughout the roads. But I knew as long as I have the willpower in me, as long as I have the iron in me, I know I will be able to march through and turbocharge ahead, no matter what failures I face, because I know my heart is in the right place. And that's why through many threats, many offers, I can persevere. And I think today, I don't regret my decisions. Many have asked, maybe you should have, just focus on your jobs then, or maybe then you should have just left Malaysia. Then I got an offer to study in Oxford University on public policy, which I rejected twice with Chevening scholarship, which recently I met the Chevening officer. She's not that happy, but I said, never say never. In the future, maybe I may go back again. But there are really no regrets because I love doing what I do and I knew that my heart is in the right place. And the reason why I say in the end it all ties back to when there's a will, there's a way, is because you need to find that particular item, object, passion, job, which really keeps you going. And it's not just about luck, it's not just about finding momentary interest, but it's something which you know that even in the darkest of days, even when you are ultimately stressed out, you can wake up every morning feeling excited, knowing that you will do that particular thing. So I hope if there's something which I could impart today, is that. Because before you talk about leadership, being a leader, being a change maker, it is about changing yourself internally and preparing yourself internally for whatever risk and consequences may come your way. And that knowing that even if you were to fail, you know that you would be in a better position than where you were before. And to me, I knew that failure is not about losing. Failure is not about being threatened and then facing the consequences. To me, failure is not doing anything. And knowing that I'll regret it, knowing that I will not be able to wake up well, knowing that my conscience is in a different place or my conscience is not clear. To me, that is failure. And I've defined it so well that today, there is a regiment in my life which reminds me that whenever I'm to make a very big decision. But that's what I do. That's what keeps me going. That's what makes me who I am today. So I hope in whichever field you are at, or in whichever job or interest you select, hopefully if there's one thing I can impart, is that when there's a will, there's a way, and that will is built on passion, on the lifestyle which keeps you awake, or which keeps you going, or keeps you excited every time you wake up every morning. Thank you very much, everyone. I look forward to listening to your questions. Q&A. You wanna go?
Now we will start with the Q&A session. Anyone have a question for YB?
There you go. I got that one first.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nadia from APU. I want to ask a question quite on theme, now that we're talking about Malaysians studying overseas. So I want to ask you about your opinion on Malaysia's brain drain issue, and what do you propose would be viable solutions to ensure that young talented Malaysians come back to work in their homeland, Malaysia?
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. Nadia, you're from EPU? Or APU? Okay, Asia Pacific University. Whenever I get this question, I try my best to couch it properly because I do not want to easily point fingers to any groups by labeling them to be less nationalistic, less patriotic, and one being more patriotic just because they decide to stay. Because the fact of the matter is everyone have different interests, different passions, different reasons. But I think what unites us is that we are still Malaysia at heart no matter where we are at. First, let's look at the numbers. I think there's about 1 to 1.5 million Malaysians who are abroad. And those who are abroad mostly are well-skilled, good credentials, great experience, good networking. Most likely, if they come back, they will be in a T20 or upper middle class category. So that means the brain drain is real, it's in huge numbers, and the numbers are not getting any better. While I say that, does this mean that we will be a failed state? Does this mean that we will fail as a country? I disagree. I want to share a few examples, but obviously to succeed it requires, I call it a reset. If you look at South Korea in the 1980s, 1990s, before they fully transitioned to become a democracy, many of the smartest and brightest left to work abroad, to gain experience, started abroad as blue-collar workers, but ended up dominating whichever fields or industries they're in, even in a conventional industry like F&B. You look at India, same thing happened. You look at China, pre-Deng Xiaoping, right? The father of modernization for China. Smartest, brightest left, studied abroad, and didn't want to come back. However, when there was a wind of change, did they come back? They did. And they come back in masses to a point that their country was turbocharged forward. I'm sharing this because while there is an aura of pessimism, I think we can reverse it when there is a genuine reset, when fellow Malaysians abroad know that this land is their home and that everyone, regardless of race and religion, can proudly call this place their home, that they stand an equal chance like any other to succeed in this wonderful country. So I'm still optimistic because I think that time will come. Is it today? No. Will it be in the future? That time will come. Whether it's my generation or another, I think it will come. I want to share some very personal things behind this journey as well. I remember when I was in government, early 2019, without informing the Prime Minister then, because I had work in Hong Kong anyway, I took a flight to Hong Kong, finished my official duties and engagements, and I tried my luck to meet up with one of the most illustrious Malaysians, Sir Robert Kwok. I think a lot of you would know him. If you don't, please read his book. His book is spectacular. Not just if you want to be a businessman, if you want to be a politician, if you want to be a civil servant, please read it because it talks about the inner workings of government, what should and should not be done, and how we should be a better country from it. So obviously after reading his book, I realized I'm going to try my luck, and me being me, I'll do whatever it takes to meet up, right? So I tried so many different routes. Finally I found one, and he gave a chance for me to meet him for lunch. And then he was very old. I think it was about mid-90s, like 94, 95 then. So when I met him, to be honest, I wanted to make this very courageous pitch, again, which is not endorsed by anyone, including the Prime Minister, but as a young Malaysian, I really wanted to do it. What more, a young, moderate, multiracial-minded Malaysian? Because after reading his book, I sensed a lot of pessimism, sadness, betrayal. So I want to show that this is the new Malaysia, and being young, I will make this passionate pitch. And I made this whole pitch. When I met him, obviously, I was listening to his stories. He was sharing many advice, and I can tell you that man is on another world. His memory is unbelievable. Mid-95, I can quote what was happening exact date in the 1950s. I mean, I don't remember what I ate yesterday, right? So I learned a lot, but then when I made my pitch, I said, I mean, we are Malaysians. I know deep down you love Malaysia. If not, you wouldn't come back. If not, you still not remain as a Malaysian. You could have, every other country would have flaunted whatever citizenship to you with so many incentives, but you still remain as a Malaysian, and many of your family members are Malaysian. He said, yeah, because that's where he was born, that's where he served, and that's where everything started. So I was making this speech, please come back. Even though you can't come back physically, because he wasn't that well, he was going through a lot of treatment, I said, at least signal to the global community, to the Malaysian diaspora, that Malaysia is back. Because if someone like you, who's well known, well respected across the globe, the Malaysian diaspora in China and Hong Kong, huge in numbers, in Singapore who also revere and respect him, I think that will be a good signal. And I was making this whole pitch, this is the new Malaysia, this is the new Malaysia, and I'll do whatever it takes to get it done. And it was just sharing optimism, and at the end, I think to some extent he was convinced and introduced me to some of his family members and said, okay, let's do this in Malaysia. And then after a few months, many things happened. I think we don't have to go back to history. You may have followed the turbulence which happened, change in government, a lot of false promises. And I felt really sad. I felt that I failed because I made this passionate pitch. But who am I to change the whole country? But I truly believed in it. Right? When I was telling it, I truly believed in it. I think this country is destined to succeed. I think when we celebrate diversity and meritocracy, we will climb up faster than our regional peers. I think we can be the success story of a country where it is a majority Muslim country, but which embraces diversity and modernity, one in which provides good quality jobs, good public transportation, which speaks with interest when it comes to transitioning to the green economy, a country in which we could all be proud about, and the economic engine of Southeast Asia. I truly believed in it when I was pitching it. But I know that that journey will not be easy, and I felt that I failed because, again, this is a guy who has served his life in Malaysia, done many things for many Malaysians, and brought our name abroad very successfully. And while I gave that hope, I thought I failed to deliver. But this reminded me until today that that dream is still alive. That while it's merely a dream for me, I will do whatever it takes to see that dream being realized, no matter the consequences to myself, because I believe in it. So why I'm sharing that is that I hope that no matter who we are, which profession we are in, which country we choose to pick and select to work and stay in, that we don't lose that Malaysian identity, because the fact of the matter is, we are still Malaysians, and wherever we are at, we can serve in our own respective ways. And when the time is right, because again, I've met many graduates from Oxford and Cambridge who choose to stay and work there instead of coming back, is because of the lack of proper scientific infrastructure here, knowledge transfer, industries which cater to their very high knowledge set. But I say, when the time is right, you come back and you lead it. But they know it. They are Malaysians, they know what's best. So I hope that we don't lose that burning passion and desire in us, because Malaysia is a wonderful country despite its imperfections. But its imperfections lie in all of us, and it acts as a collective. When we improve it as a person, we improve it as a team together. And I hope that familial bond of being a Malaysian will guide us forward, and in the future, we will resolve this brain drain, reverse it, and make this country a great country where we will all proudly call home. Thank you very much. Very scared.
Hi YB, I just have a quick question for you. So you were, of course, our youngest ever minister at 25. And within the same administration, we also had the youngest ever female minister, YB at 35. What's your 10-year plan to make sure we have the youngest female minister of hopefully 25 or even younger, maybe from Muda?
to be honest, I wouldn't be aiming only for a youngest female minister. I think we should aim for a youngest female prime minister. It shouldn't just be a minister. And Malaysia, I think you know, I don't have to convince you. You speak very passionately about these issues. Malaysia doesn't suffer from a deficit of great female talents. I mean, I've had the privilege working with Yeo Bee Yin, despite the fact now we're in this awkward position in terms of party-to-party relationship. But I will not take away a person's genuine credentials just because there may be disagreements from a party-to-party perspective. She's an amazing lady. I mean, working for, I tell you, in cabinet, it was so fun. Okay, not fun in the conventional sense. Because when we enter, we knew that we had to be ready in and out, every single detail. If you know, when you enter cabinet, there's like 20 cabinet papers, and the 20 cabinet papers are like 20 books. And you only have less than 1 week to read it because you get it just a few days before. Working with Yeo Bee Yin, my God, she knows in and out of every single cabinet paper to a point of every single cent of financial expenses of every single cabinet paper. So the debate will be very good, productive, based on data and science. And I learned a lot, and at the same time, I truly enjoyed working with someone like that. And again, it shows that in Malaysia, we don't suffer from a deficit of talents. There are so many more. There's the likes of YB Nuriza, Hannah Yeoh, and many others. YB Munira. I think the list is a very long list. I think it's a tragedy if we don't do that, at least in our generation. I think we're about the same generation. It's a tragedy if we don't have a first female prime minister. And it's not about tokenism, but it's really about merit. I think out of merit, they deserve it. And many of those who I work with are actually better than me. And I'm not afraid to admit that. And I think in the end, what makes Malaysia a great country is positive competition to the top, not character assassination where we bring ourselves down. Because hurting our enemies that way hurt our country as well. Because it creates a vendetta, a culture of vendetta and a vicious cycle. So I think competition is the best way forward. So I hope, to be honest, it's not just another or youngest female minister. I hope it will be a female prime minister one day, and I hope it will be in the next 2 or 3 terms. If we can't do it now, we have a prime minister, so in the future, hopefully, we can do that. And I'm fairly certain that will inspire many, and that inspiration alone will make our country a better country. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I saw the first one raise hand.
Good afternoon, YB. I wanted to ask you 2 questions, but I'll make it a bit shorter as I can. My name is Ainul Luqmanul Hakim. I'm also from APU. My friends and I aspire to be public policy makers, so it's nice for you to come here as an inspiration. So I want to first say that I am diagnosed with ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder. And I want to ask these 2 questions, a bit more of a personal take. So, what advice can you give to us youth to, for example, to go for public policy? What can we do? What steps can we go for? And then, for somebody, a topic closely related to me, autism, about mental health, what support can we do and take for youth? Because I'm diagnosed in HUKM, Hospital HUKM, and it's very difficult to understand and be equal because we are don't have that opportunities as people who are not neurodivergent. So I hope, thank you.
Thank you very much, Aidil, and thank you for sharing very briefly with the audience. It's much appreciated. I'll start with the first question on what are the basic steps to enter a career of public policy. As I shared just now, first I think you need to know which area of public policy you want to enter. You want to be a policy maker, you want to be an expert, academician, you want to be a researcher, you want to be an officer to a minister. I think that must be set because once it moves into the angle of politics and partisan politics, that takes a very different skill set. But my suggestion is this: since you're already passionate about public policy, even before you graduate, try to do as many internships or volunteering work for political parties, politicians, policymakers. And again, don't be afraid to go from one to another, because you're not an MP, you're not jumping. You're actually learning as much as possible. Why I say that, it's much better to invest, to get as much valuable experience and networks. When you are there, please get those networks so that you enter as many meetings as possible, you learn as much as possible. Because I think then you'll start to fine-tune your public policy skill sets. That's where you know, okay, maybe my passion is here, or my passion is to join and compete and contest, or my passion is to become an officer. But that's where it starts. For me, that's, to be honest, how I slowly started to realize, hey, maybe my vision is to change Malaysia via party politics, because that's the epicenter of power. I can be an officer, but an officer will not change much. The decision maker is still the boss. So I fine-tuned it through all of those. I actually started just as an intern. Then there was a program called Fellow Perdana. It was the first batch. I tried my luck applying. Then I became an intern to YB Nancy Shukri, who's now the Minister of Women's Affairs from Sarawak. But previously she was the Minister of Law. And she's an amazing lady. I call her my mother in politics because she taught me a lot, a great, true public servant at heart. So that's where it started. And then that sparked my interest, and I became a researcher to the former Chief Minister, and then many things happened. So I think that's the beginning. Try find these areas of opportunities where there's internships, collaborations, volunteerism, with those with great public policy passion and interest, because they will be able to open up their networks, and I think you'll be able to fine-tune your interests from there onwards. Because when you do choose, let's say, to transition into world of politics, I think today is a lot more competitive. This is no longer politics pre-2018, where there's only one government or one coalition dominating, which I think is great for Malaysian democracy. It means there's a lot more competition. It means it's much easier for you to be a candidate than what was done prior to 2018. The barrier to entry is lower as well. So, but you start by building your public persona, your interests, and your strength. I think that's where you can transition after. To answer the second question about mental health, I just want to show, the reason I feel very passionate about this issue is that this is a national issue. It's not just a youth issue, it is a national issue. And official numbers, not random studies, official numbers show that 1 out of 3 people, young people in particular in Malaysia, suffer from either anxiety and depression. And it's very serious. You look at the increase in suicide numbers, you look at the increase in hospitalization rate, which then also explains why there is a bipartisan effort to take this issue seriously. Is that enough? Definitely no. I mean, to show how much it's not enough, in Malaysia, private sector support for mental health is still not there. I mean, let's not even talk about private sector. Let's talk about our family members, right? I'm pretty sure a lot of us would have encountered when we start talking, I'm depressed, mental health issue. I'm like, hey, just toughen it out lah. Hey, this is nothing lah. This is just in your mind. I face that a lot, and I know many others who have faced that. But that's where I think one is awareness, and that's where we need to have a lot more people speaking about it, not just in Parliament but outside, because awareness leads to policy makers making more policies. It means governments allocating more resources for mental health, to deal with mental health issues. And above and beyond that, that's where private sector also comes in as well. In Malaysia, you'll notice even many private insurance do not cover issues involving mental health, while in many developed countries it has. You look at our mental health budget, you look at the ratio of patients to psychologists or psychiatrists, we are so far behind, right? I mean, so far behind. But I think, looking at, we've had 4 different prime ministers, 4 different cabinets, but I noticed no matter which party is in power, there's actual discussion about mental health and more allocations for it. So I think it will get better, but if we as a society do not humanize and deal with it better, then no matter how much money you throw at it, not much change will happen. So I hope that you will get the support which you deserve and which you need. Thank you very much, Aida.
Yep, we can get one more question.
Hi, my name is Adam Farihin. I'm a student from KTJ, currently taking A-levels.
KTJ, College Tunku Jaafar.
College Tunku Jaafar.
I used to teach in your school, debating. The
Yeah.
school which pays me the most, 400 ringgit for 1 hour. Alamak. Okay, sorry, it's a random fact.
In your keynote speech, you talked about you have passion in military, right? Can you give us some tips to those of us who are lost and currently do not have any passion on how we can discover our passion? Thank you.
That's a very good question, Adam. The good thing is we're all young. We have time. We have room to make mistakes. But when we are young, we need to dare to experiment. As I shared before, I mean, politics was not even my top 10 lah. I wanted to be a singer, lecturer, everything, right? And then finally, there was that moment of awakening. But to get that moment of awakening, it will take time. And it will take a lot of experimentations. My suggestion, do not immediately jump deep, so deep to a point that you cannot extract yourself out too early. That means even if, let's say, you are pursuing a law degree, it doesn't mean that everything you do, whether your passion, your interest, should be revolving around law. When I took up, initially I actually took econs. And after that I realized this is not for me. I converted to law. And while I learned law, I realized I don't want to just be a master of one. I also minored in econs. And then I took up public policy. And that's why I got an offer to do my master's in public policy. But I did many things around. I taught at the same time. My first job was a salesman selling laptops with a 777 ringgit monthly income, but with every laptop sold, 15 ringgit additional bonus. Right? So I was exploring everything to find what my passion was. And that's why I realized finally there's something which wakes me up every morning and wakes me up happy, where I know I can be an epicenter of change and I can change things for the better. And that gets me excited every morning, no matter how painful it is. So my suggestion is, when you're young, now you're in KTJ, experiment with as many things, as many fields as you can. And I know the experimentation process may not be that easy, but that's where find inspiring individuals, listen to their stories, see whether it gels with yours, and then meet up with another person who's in a completely different skill set with different stories, and then start experimenting on what makes you happy and what you look for to wake up to and to do every morning. And that's where you know that's your passion. And do not ever feel afraid of making mistakes. We are young, you may be fearful of making mistakes. Oh my God, this will happen, people will judge me, that's the end. I can tell you the number of times where I thought I already hit a brick wall is unbelievable. I almost did not contest in last election, I almost did not contest in my first election, I almost left Malaysia to pursue my studies in Oxford, and then the second time almost left Malaysia again. There are so many times. But whenever I'm to do that, I keep on realizing, so what if this is a mistake? So what if I fail? It's not the end of the world. I know my heart is in the right place. I know I can bounce back. Or it's okay, I go to a different field. I can do many things. I've learned many different skill sets, build a decent network, and I can explore different networks because I dared to take those risks. So I hope that you will not just experiment, but you will risk things to experiment to find that passion. Because once you find it, it will be unbelievably worth it. All the best. Let's have one final question.
One more question.
Okay. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, very quick.
Yep. One more question.
Okay, just a quick question, YB. So going back to the first question just now about brain drain, right? Way before that, the number of SPM candidates who are not going to pursue higher education is increasing year by year. So generally, the public feels like it's because of the fake rich people influence and also social media. But personally, I feel like because it's the lack of opportunities, not just placement in universities, but also financial aids and stuff. So may I know what are your thoughts on this?
I agree with you 110%. I really dislike it when people mislabel young people, you know, or they're too impressionable, they want to be a TikTok star because their friend is on TikTok, is very popular, and that's the only reason why. I mean, young people are actually very smart, but at the same time, they also know that our generation is facing our own crisis. I mean, this is not for me, this is the official numbers from the Ministry of Education, which states that more than 50% of SPM leavers don't further their studies after and immediately choose to work. Do they become TikTok stars? Maybe 1 out of like 100,000. A lot of them will end up working different gig economy, part-time, while studying as well. They'll do many things because of a lack of opportunities and options. And I think it still ties back to 3 very common things. One is that even with a degree today, your income progression is very slow. Again, you working in Uniqlo as an SPM leaver gets you 2,300 ringgit, but you being an engineer, more than 50% of engineers in Malaysia earn below 2,000 ringgit. Right? I think that says a lot. And to be an engineer, you need to work and you need to study for at least 5 years because you have pre-university, and at university you have a student debt of about 50,000 ringgit or 100,000 ringgit if it's a private university. So why go through all of that when your income is about the same, right? And the time taken to study universities are really long. In Malaysia, it takes about 5 to 6 years. When you pass pre-university, in other developed countries, with pre-university is only 4 years. So you lose 2 additional years, while others could have studied, worked, and do many other things. So the point I'm trying to make, I think, is a lot more structural and systemic than it is, oh, it's because their friends are TikTok stars, therefore they want to do TikTok. I think a lot of people realize they may want to do it, and then they realize, oh, I can't make money out of it, and then they move back to the real world. So I agree with you. I think this is a lot more systematic, and to resolve it, it requires an inter-ministerial approach. I mean, I've spoken a lot about trimming the fat in public university and in public education. I said trimming the fat is not funding, but it means cutting down unnecessary subjects, ensuring that you can graduate much earlier so that you can pursue your passion and interest, work, do multiple internships, and then be as competitive as those who graduate from NUS and NTU in Singapore. And obviously, above and beyond that, I've talked about specific policy suggestions on how to ensure that wages in Malaysia are better, not just in terms of paid internships, but in terms of wage transparency laws, in terms of introducing wage benchmarking laws like Singapore, and many other things behind it. It's not always the simple thing of let's increase minimum wage and that's the solution to everything. It matters, but minimum wage is not the only solution. So I can give you a whole lecture, but it'll be a very boring lecture about wages, but I think that's issue number 1 among our generation. If our generation is not lazy, our generation is not incompetent, the fact that many young Malaysians, including young Malays, travel to Australia without having any family member over there to become fruit pickers in the hot, scorching heat. No minimum wage in Australia, because even while it's below minimum wage, converting to Malaysian ringgit means that they are middle class here, shows how hardworking our youth are. Now it's about us coming out with good policies to make Malaysia a better place to live in. Thank you very much, everyone. I see the organizers are panicking. And also I see Dato' Ambiga is already here. Hello, Dato'. Yeah, she's exceptional. Really sure she will inspire you like how she inspired me before I joined politics. So thank you very much, everyone. All the best in your future pursuits. Assalamualaikum. Shishini.
Thank you so much, YB, for your ever-inspiring speech. From delinquent to minister, this proved that where there's a will, there's a way. Well, now YB, before you leave the stage, we would like to call Mascas National Chairperson Xiao Lu onto the stage to present you with a token of appreciation for your attendance today. Please come up on the stage.
And before you head off as well, we would also like to have a group photo at the bottom with the crowd.
With the crowd, yes.